without further ado, let us say hello to the bad guy, the American gangster, the one and only Chael Sonnen. I mean, look at this. This is something. It's always very surreal when you come to us from the set. It almost feels fake, Chael.
What's happening, Errol? It's nice to see you, by the way. Great show so far. By the way, Eddie Hearn got scrapped. Is that accurate?
First, can I just say it's good to be seen?
Very good. It's good to be. All right. Well done. You delivered it right on mark. Is Eddie Hearn off the show? I have a question about Eddie Hearn. You did a great job with that coverage. Whatever happened with the bet between Hearn and Paul? Paul says, I lost. I owe him $1 million, but Eddie called the deal off. What am I missing?
What I love so much about this is there's never any foreplay. There's never any footsie. We get right into it. First of all, I thought you were taking a shot at me because I've had Hearn on a bunch of times, and you were like, hey, why isn't he on this week or today? No, Eddie was on Monday. He's now in Las Vegas. He's a great character, by the way. I'd love to get your thoughts on him in a moment, but there was a bet, and then apparently people behind the scenes said, hey, promoters shouldn't be betting. So now there's going to be a new bet and something involving charity, something involving maybe one of his fighters sparring Jake Paul, but they haven't actually come out and said you're going to do X, Y, and Z.
All right, fair enough. I read something like that. I always hate it when the guys turn to charity. It just seems like this weird attempt at some kind of a something, like where you're patting yourself on the back. You guys bet. You never mention charity. One guy honors the better, one guy welchers. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. If you go in the back and you call the bet off, that's amongst men. Go ahead. You bring the chair. It just gets weird. In all fairness, it just gets weird. The bet either's on or the bet's off. There's no charity involved.
Do you think it was a bad look? Do you think it was a bad look for them to make a bet?
No, well, I was confused on it. In all fairness, I don't want to make a big deal out of nothing, but anytime somebody within sport makes a bet within that sport, I just defer back to Pete Rose. Like, that's just where my mind goes. And I know that was a long time ago, and I can't remember all of the ins and outs about it, but I did wonder that when they did it, I felt as though Eddie was trying to live in the moment. He had an ego. The cameras were rolling, but he was giving himself some wiggle room. I mean, he did say something along the lines of, we'll have to get some paperwork together, which I interpreted to mean like, hey, Jake, when we get in the back, let me explain to you, I'm the promoter of record. I'm not betting you, which I think is fair. I had no problem with it. I just noticed after the fight, Jake had said, yes, I did lose. I admit that, but we actually called the bet off. And I was just wondering if there was some kind of drama beyond that.
By the way, when he was on the show, and I didn't expect us to talk about Eddie off the bat here, but I called him the best promoter in combat sports today. Now, again, not all time, and I don't know how much you follow his work, watch his stuff, but I think right now, regardless of combat sport, he's number one by a wide margin. As someone who knows a thing or two about promotion, agree or disagree?
That would surprise me. I would not put him at number one, but I am a fan. For multiple reasons. One, what he's built is very impressive. Not to mention he's a pretty young guy to have built something so well. He's a very handsome guy. He comes across very well when he discusses. I love the back and forth that you sat in the middle of between he and Jake Paul. I think when Jake Paul is at his best, it's when he's the way he was with Eddie, because Jake Paul's feelings were hurt. You could tell that he admired Eddie and he did value Eddie's opinion. And when Eddie wasn't putting him over and coming and glowing, you could tell from a human element that hurt Jake's feelings. But I think that's when Jake's at his best. Even when he tells Eddie, I'll fight anybody you got if they have under 10 fights. I like when Jake Paul caps himself. When he doesn't come out to be, the next Sugar Ray Leonard. When he caps himself but says, I'm willing to go in there and prove it one way or the other. I find that compelling.
Okay. All right. But you don't agree with me that he's the best promoter in combat sports. Who is the best promoter in combat sports right now, in your opinion?
Dana White. Are you joking right now?
Right now, right now, Chael. Right now, Chael. He's throwing 80 miles an hour. This guy, Dana won the race. Come on, he's sitting back. He doesn't know half the card. He doesn't even go to do media and stuff like that. He's mailing it in, let's be honest. And by the way, that's no knock. He won the race already. He doesn't have to do the media. He doesn't have to care as much. He's a multi-millionaire. But you can't tell me right now he's the best promoter in combat sports. Based on what? Based on living, breathing? Based on what? What evidence?
I will happily and easily answer that question. My God, he does 50 events a year. You want to talk about the media, knowing the card? You find me somebody that does 50 events a year. And not to mention,
Eddie,
that's only on the worldwide. That's only on the worldwide leader. Are you not counting what goes on the Ultimate Fighter? Are you not counting Dana White contenders here? I mean, he does close to 70 events a year in a 52-week calendar year. I don't think there's much of a comparison there. If we're being fair, come on, man. That's pretty impressive work. That's a lot of work.
Absolutely. And that's why I say he won the race. That machine rolls rolls on without him. That machine is well oiled already. You don't think that they do those 50 shows and all that other stuff with or without him at this point? That's a testament to him and what he and the Fertitas built. But right now, right this second, pound for pound, if we're talking pound for pound right now, I'm not talking all-time lifetime achievement award. I'm talking right now. He's the best. He's the one that stands up at the Chael. He walks up to the dais. I'm being as unbiased here as possible. What does he do to make you want to tune in Saturday night? That's the job of the promoter. Does he tell you why Chandler Ferguson is important? Does he tell you why Rose Carla is important? Or does he say, who was the first question? That's not a promoter.
If we played this game, hey, tell me 5 guys that Dana White has under contract. Very simple. We would do that very quickly, so would all the audits. If we played that same game and said, tell me 5 guys that Eddie Hearn has under contract, people have to start looking up paperwork.
No.
People have to go to Google and start looking up. I don't know 5 guys within his staple. He was sitting there doing something with Jake Paul. I wouldn't sit down with Errol Hawani and blurt out to the world as Jake Paul was my guy. I don't think he is. I think Paul is signed under Showtime and Espinoza. I mean, in all fairness, no, I don't agree with you. He does a very good job in a sport that is a complete disaster.
Have you heard of a guy named Canelo Alvarez?
Yes.
One of his guys.
Canelo was De La Hoya's guy. I know they had some kind of a falling out, but in fairness, if I had to bet my life who is Canelo signed to, I would have said De La Hoya.
There you go. It's Eddie Hearn. Chael, we have a lot to talk about here, and I've got a list of things. This is actually a great time because you've been in the news a lot as of late with some of these takes that have been so. I mean, I'm happy that there's someone that can check you on some of these because they have been so crazy lately. And so here we are. The world has brought us together. Before we get into all of that, of course, I'd be remiss. You have been in the news for, an alleged incident that has nothing to do with MMA, but is a personal thing that allegedly happened in Las Vegas late last year. Is there anything that you can say about this at this time? I understand it's a pending legal matter, but at this time, I just wanted to ask, is there anything that you can say about it?
Well, I am stunned that you brought it up, Errol. I never thought that question was going to come. No, there's nothing I can say about it. As you said, it's an ongoing matter.
Okay, fair enough. I did want to ask, I wish the best for you and your family, and I love you dearly. And whenever you can talk about it, would love to talk to you about it, but 100% respect that. Now, a few things I wanted to ask you about. The first thing was, you came out and you said Leon Edwards has been offered like stand down money to not fight Kamaru Usman. Leon took umbrage with this, called you out. Where did you get this one? This never happened, Chael. Where are you getting this information? Why didn't you you used to call me before you would sit in that little chair of yours, you and Ryan Parsons, you'd call me on speakerphone. You'd be like, hey, Ariel, give me the lowdown. You don't do this anymore for some reason. I don't know if someone told you not to do it. Where did you get this crazy idea?
That's true. Now, I got to defend myself because it was like 3 sentences long, and that's only 5 of the words. I said there is a rumor that I don't believe to be true that Leon was offered money to stand down. And there was another rumor so Conor could take that spot. But I was very clear to say, I don't believe this rumor. Leon cleared that up for us. He said that it wasn't true. So in all fairness, the rumor that I believed was not true turned out it wasn't true, which means I was right.
Does this happen to you a lot? I feel like it happens a lot. Like if you put in your name right now in Google News, I don't know if you do that. There's a lot of aggregation sites that take stuff off your videos. And I feel like they're only taking a slice, like in this instance that we're talking about. And I don't want to say you get in trouble for it because I don't really think you care. I don't even know if you follow any of the stuff. You still don't follow anyone on Twitter. But the point is, does it annoy you when this stuff tends to come back at you from the people in question, in this case, Leon Edwards?
I think in all fair, yeah, I think when it is the guy, yes, because that happened with Masvidal, who's a longtime friend, whose opinion I do respect. And it does bother me a little bit. Like, I understand clickbait. I live in that space. I don't know that I've ever been guilty of clickbait, but I do get it, and I'm not above it. Like, if I got in a jam, in all fairness, I'm not above it. But I do think when you quote a guy, if you were to take 5 words with no consideration to the 50 words that came first or the 500 words that comes, I think it's a little bit low. I think that's a little bit cheap. And I have had athletes, again, just to go back to Masvidal, somebody who I do appreciate, that only gets that click, or somebody will ask him about it, those 5 specific words, like, whoa, you've missed the meaning here entirely. And in fairness, even on that Leon one, I truly did say, I don't believe this rumor is true. But then I told the story, look, Errol, you want to know something? Those last 2 weeks, I don't know if I've ever had a slower time. I've had a very hard time. I create 4 to 5 topics a day, put them out on YouTube. I don't know if I've had a harder time than the last 14 days. Just one of those times in MMA, right? It's just one of these little bit slower times and the fans aren't grabbing. I need Conor McGregor to take a dolly and throw it at a bus. Like, there's things like that I need, and we've been on good behavior for the last half a month.
What is your process, by the way? Like, how do you determine what you're going to sit in that chair and talk about? And when it is slow, you still put out the same amount of stuff. I still see the feed as busy as ever. What do you do?
Do you want to know the number one thing if I'm ever in a jam? If I'm ever trying to reach goals and numbers and this is swear to goodness, and you can ask Ryan Parsons, true story. Emma, Ethan, here to back me up. Every single day I go to Ariel Helwani's feed because nothing for me in the world of clickbaits works better than Ariel Helwani said. And whatever that is, if you say it, if I can then come on the back with an opinion or even just to pair what you said and put it in a different phrase, like that always seems to work for me. But sometimes it's tough, and you have been doing a lot in boxing right now. You've always touched with basketball and you've always touched with pro wrestling, but it's one of those things. And just to answer your question, I just go to the dirt sheets, the manias, the elbows, the junkies, the sure dogs, the MMA fightings of the world. I take their topics and I read the whole story and then I come tell my audience what they said. I don't do any investigative work. So a moment ago when you were talking about me being wrong, me saying something that ended up being wrong. Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm not a journalist. I don't do that. I have a conversation. I regurgitate. It's what it is.
I love that you call these outlets dirt sheets, like it's 1986 pro wrestling.
It's a good term.
It is.
In all fairness, whatever I can steal from that vernacular, I do enjoy. I love the fact that Kurt Jerker is now. I love somebody going over. I love the push. I love that these terms from pro wrestling have made their way into MMA. I think it's about time.
Jobber, the boys in the back. You know, you love the boys in the back. That's a fit. Okay, I'll give you an Ariel Helwani says, and I'd love to hear your retort. So we disagree on the best promoter in combat sports. I said recently, and we could actually get into some news here if you'd like. What's happening with Nathan Diaz is one of the great travesties in the history of the UFC. What they are doing to him right now is a massive, massive fail on their part. They are holding this man hostage right now. They are not giving him a fight. He's ready to go. He hasn't fought in almost a year, Chael. Surely you agree with me on this one.
Yes, I do very much. If we made any mistake as a community, 2020, which seems like yesterday, but we had Conor McGregor, the sport's biggest star, who was raring to go to the point that on January 19th, and you and I got to be live in Las Vegas to cover it. They created an event that didn't even exist. They created for him. They sold it out in less than 48 hours to take on Cowboy Cerrone. I mean, this was a massive star. And to preserve the idea that we might get Conor versus Khabib 2, we put him on ice, and Conor was ready to go. I think it was a big mistake. I think that we should have learned from it. And in fairness to your point, I'm seeing that same thing re-happening with Diaz. And I know there's more to the story, and I understand there's contracts, but when you have this massive star who's ready to go, I think you turn him loose.
Okay, but they're trying to keep him on ice for Conor, who isn't ready to come back. You got to give the guy a fight, right? And the major reason why they're keeping him on ice is because they want the Conor fight, but it's also because they don't want him to go fight Jake Paul and make that money over there. You recognize that, right?
Of course. I'm well aware of all the pieces here. And by the way, is that a go? Like when I hear Jake Paul talk about fighters, I don't ever hear him mentioning Nate Diaz. I get where that would work, and I get where that would be wonderful. But is that actually something that behind the scenes Jake Paul has said, yes, get free and we're going to box each other? Like, is that a sure thing? Because I feel like Francis is starting to dip his toe into something with Fury here too. It's like, Francis, is that a lock? Are you positive you've got a bird in the hand here?
Well, he can if he wants to, because he's about to become a free agent. I saw that you said, again, let me know if I'm wrong here, that Dana White might have felt betrayed by Francis being in the ring. Why so? They're going to stand to make a lot of money if he signs with the UFC and then takes that Fury fight. I mean, that's only good for business. Of course, he's going to poo-poo it because he'd rather everything be under his umbrella. But look what happened with Mayweather-McGregor. And I'm not saying that this would be as big, but it would be pretty damn big, right? Who is the true baddest man on the planet? Is it the heavyweight champion of boxing or the UFC champion? Why would they not be in favor of this?
Well, look, I don't know if any of those things are true. I mean, in all fairness, if that fight was happening, I would stop what I was doing and I would go watch it. I don't think that a lot of us have a big question from a competitive standpoint. Who wins a stand-up battle between Fury and Francis? Are we going to have a spectacle? We're going to have some fun. About every 10 years in this sport, we do. About every 10 years, we get a James Toney or a CM Punk, and we just going to go have fun for one night. I understand that, but I do take umbrage with the entire comparison between Mayweather and McGregor. I have never personally lived through a story that has been flat lied about more than that one. I was in attendance that night, and there was a whole bunch of people dressed up as empty seats. Those two guys wanted to rematch and could not get a promoter to sign off on it. I mean, if we're to be real fair, somebody got their ass kicked that night. And the only reason that we all make believe that was this wonderful night of business is because somebody in the PR department put it out and everybody else regurgitated. In all fairness, We don't have anybody from Cox Warner. We don't have anybody from DirecTV. You don't have anybody with any level of distribution that has ever confirmed those numbers. That was a myth. It was fun. Some guys did well. Someone got their ass kicked. And I'm, in fairness to Fury versus Francis, no. This is not about who the baddest dude in the world is. Whoever the MMA champion is the baddest dude in the world, and everybody understands that.
But what if they fight with 4-ounce gloves?
Francis is the baddest dude in the world. There's your answer.
4-ounce gloves. If they fight 4-ounce gloves and Fury knocks him out, isn't he the baddest dude in the world then?
No, I think that you're going to have some fun. I get that. I don't know why they're trying to change that. Look, partner, in all fairness, the All-E Act is not going to apply here, which I don't think that Tyson Fury even understands. That fight is never going to go to the open market because they're not boxing. They're making something up. You change one rule, you're no longer doing boxing. Fury doesn't understand. I really think that. In his entire career, everything's gone to open market, including his last fight against Dillian Whyte. I don't think that he gets this. So he's going to find somebody with some money in their pocket that's willing to come in and take a risk. Why don't they just box? Francis has been very clear. Francis has said, I will box him. I will go into his sport under his rules, and I will do this. Why are they trying to negotiate? Imagine this being on SportsCenter. They break into the hour. They announce this fight. They don't call it boxing. They can't call it MMA. They call it something else. It's weird. Just go box. Francis is fine with it. Why are you changing the size of the gloves? Why are you talking about we can clinch? Why are you arguing about whether it's going to be in a cage and a ring? There's two sports, MMA and boxing. You got one guy that's willing to go do your sport. Francis should get credit for that, and Fury should have to put his record on the line. It's very simple.
Francis Ngannou will re-sign with the UFC. True or false?
Ariel, can I tell you, I hope. Can I ride the fence on that one? I hope that he does. I think what Francis did in his last fight, I did not like it the night that fight ended. I was disappointed. Francis versus Surreal. As time went on,
why didn't you like it? Wait, why didn't you like it?
I don't have the same opinion. No, I didn't enjoy it. As time went on, though, I do have a very different opinion. The fact that Francis was down 2 rounds, he had to turn to a skill set that he had never used before. In this case, it was the takedown. He did it 3 successful rounds, and then it gets revealed to the audience that he had an injury going into it. I looked at it very differently. I really think that Francis has some very special days in front of him. I think he's a member of this community, and I hope that he stays. And by the way, you touched on something and you moved on, and it was me saying that Dana could have felt betrayed. He very much could feel betrayed. I mean, it's really a simple difference. Did somebody tell Dana, your heavyweight champion is about to be in a boxing ring doing a face-off? If they told him, it's fine. But if not, that was a hell of a secret to keep. And if they did keep that secret and it is on purpose, it's because it was a betrayal. That's quite literally the definition. It all comes down to intent. I just asked the question. I don't have the answer to it, but I think that it's fair by me.
But don't all roads lead back to the UFC anyway? Like, ultimately, him being there, doesn't that just up the profile of the promotion of the brand? Oh, hey, that's the UFC heavyweight champion in there with Tyson Fury. Why would he be betrayed by that? He didn't get into an actual fight. He didn't agree to a fight without his consent.
Well, I feel like this has been tested before. You could look back at the Affliction brand that Dana was very supportive and helped build, and all of a sudden they put out a poster. Was it Fedor versus Randy? I want to say was the poster. They tried to turn the gun back on the boys at Zuffa. I mean, I think in fairness, you could. Now, your approach isn't wrong. You've only got a couple of options here. Vince McMahon would agree with you. When Vince McMahon sent Brock Lesnar to the UFC, where Brock was likely to get demolished, we didn't even know who the opponent was going to be. Vince did ask himself one question. What happens if he wins? What if my guy who I get back happens to win? He's going to be bigger than ever. So that is one way to go about it. But I don't think that my story is wrong. If my champion who I built and who I wanted to get behind and who I brought to the world's attention, I brought him to Tyson Fury's attention, goes into a different country and gets into the ring at the end of the night, in all fairness, for a face-off in a level of business that I'm excluded from, and my feelings get hurt, I've got the right. I've got the right to be offended by that. I don't know that Dana was. I'm putting myself in his shoes and saying, man, I might have to look twice there. Not to me. I got a whole bunch of partners that knew this was going to happen. They kept the information from me. It's going to hurt a little bit.
Can I say something? I don't know if it's a shirt. Are your arms bigger than usual? I mean, what's going on over there?
Smaller.
They're small. They look gigantic.
I'm over here withering away.
What's happening?
I've been exercising a lot lately, and I'm losing some weight, and I'm actually smaller.
Wow.
But I think you were complimenting me, so thank you.
Yes, I was. Why are you losing weight?
I'm not trying to. I will tell you I'm not trying to. In all fairness, I think I'm under some stress. I don't want to admit that. I think I'm a little stressed and I'm a little bit depressed with my ongoing. I think that's truly what it is. But I don't want to admit that. I don't want to show any weakness. But I think that because I keep losing weight, buddy.
No,
I'm exercising a lot. I'm doing a lot of bench, a lot of dumbbell work, and I'm walking. I'm walking, but it's a lot, 6, 8, 10 miles a day.
Wow.
The calories are coming off.
What are you doing during the walks?
And don't think for a minute like I stopped taking the juice. Believe me, I always take the juice. Okay, that's not what this is. What do I do on a walk? I got a TV right there. I've largely been watching the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine just because that's what's captivating the news. I did just take in Ozarks, which was fantastic TV. I have a huge problem with the way that it ended. I think that they sailed that one in, but I liked it overall.
Never seen an episode.
Amongst the best top 5 shows ever made. Did not end well, but most shows that know
wait,
that
it's
they're coming
over?
to an end, just sail it in. They sailed it in.
Like it's done, or just the season is over? Done.
No, done. The season is over, but it was also the series finale. It's wrapped up.
Wow. Which platform?
Netflix.
And by the way, when you said 6 to 8 miles, I thought like you're going for walks in the park and stuff, not on a treadmill or something like that.
No, I'm on a treadmill. And I know that a treadmill is dull and boring. My mother even says that to me. But in Oregon, it rains all but 7 weeks a year. So, if you are kind of an outside exerciser, you got to make, I talk on the phone a lot, things like that.
Sure.
So I don't do it outside as much as I would like to.
Every so often I go on Twitter these days and, you get the little thing at the top and it's called Twitter Spaces. And every so often I see your face up there, your profile. I follow you, you don't follow me, but that's, and you're always doing these calls with these Marshall Rogan Inu guys. Actually, excuse me, it's Marshall Inu now. No more Rogan, correct? They dropped the Rogan, it's Marshall Inu. And you're doing these calls and you're talking about all this stuff and I tune in for a few minutes. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I've had Ben Askren on the show to talk about it. I've had Kenny Florian on the show to discuss this as well. Others, I believe, too. And then I just kind of tune out. What is your situation with these guys? What is your fascination, your infatuation with these Marshall Inu crypto guys who, to their credit, I will just say, appear to be really helping out fighters because I see a lot of fighters shouting them out and saying that they're paying them on time.
And that's the entire thing, what you just said right there. And if you were to back up like the timeline of MMA, and you are right, it's Marshall Inu, but if you're looking for the coin, look for MRI. Now, with that said, I give no pitch. I don't ask anybody to buy in or invest, but I will clear up a couple of things within the project. If you are in the crypto space, it's a foreign language. I don't want to lose anybody, but this project was set out specifically that every transaction that takes place, buying or selling, there's a tax that's taken that goes into a fund. That fund just gives back to fighters. Just directly. There will be a fight of the night, by example. A couple of pay-per-views ago, the fans vote on that. They actually gave it to Gilbert Burns. They also gave it to Chimaev. They gave it to Mark Madsen, but it was a total of $70,000 in one night. And these were guys that didn't even know this was coming. These were guys where something happened completely absent of their knowledge, and they got funded for it. I know those are big stars, and I'm name dropping there, but you've also got 14-year-old kids in the favela in Brazil that have the same dream that Chimaev, the same dream that Burns had, but they can't make do with their local jiu-jitsu club. They can't cover the $49 monthly due. And Marshall Inu stepped in and has helped out that segment too. So Marshall Inu, it's really just a one-way street where they're out helping people. It just happens to be our community. They've done some very beautiful things. Early on, there were some very bad things said about them. They were so good with the marketing. They're ending up all over the UFC and all over Bellator. And people thought this push was so strong, this must be what's called a rug pull. Now, a rug pull is very clear to identify. Time goes by. They either pulled the rug or they didn't. These guys didn't. They're very sincere. They're very good leadership. They have a very good intent, and they're not going anywhere. They're going to keep on helping people within this industry. So people with a dream, some people that have already made it, and the fans get to purely vote.
That's a beautiful thing and something, as you know, I can get behind. I've long been a proponent of fighter pay increasing and everyone getting more. What is their ultimate goal?
That's it. They've already achieved it. They just want to continue to be involved in this space, and they want to continue to help. I mean, it is a really good idea. I applaud fully Crypto.com, who roughly 3 or 4 weeks ago started doing like a fight of the night and these special bonuses that are very fun. But like any great idea, whoever the genesis of the idea was gets the credit. And that idea did come from Marshall Inu. They were coming live and the fighters were shouting them out. And, it's just one of these really good things. And some of the bigger guys like Crypto.com took notice of it, decided to do what they were doing. But I mean, it's still operating just the same. It's touching and influencing as many people as they can within our space, helping them to get closer to their dream. There was a story of a guy named Fabiano, who's a fighter in the space and not even a huge name. I couldn't even produce his last name for you, but he couldn't get from home to practice. His vehicle had broke down. And these guys stepped in. They just got him reliable transportation. transportation. They didn't get anything for that. They just heard about somebody in the community that needed some financial assistance. Cain Velasquez's family, right? Cain's a father. He's a husband. He's away right now. They stepped in and they helped out. I mean, I really do think it's a very beautiful thing. I do take umbrage with anybody that pushes back. Like a lot of times in life, if something's too good to be true, that's a good red flag. But these guys are now established. They've done everything they said they're going to do. And by the way, they do it on time. And I'm talking about instantly. You win the poll, boom. Here's your reward. The end.
So why is Askren such a negative Nancy when it comes to this? I mean, he's poo-pooing it left, right, and center.
You know, I don't know that I've heard a lot of the things that Ben said, and Ben and I talk crypto a lot, and Ben has access to very good information. But in his defense, he did this early on. I don't know that Ben Askren has the same opinion right now that he had 8 and 9 weeks ago. I mean, it was one of these things where everything that happens in crypto for the last 4 years, it's the Wild West, and everything garners, right? You always want to have both eyes wide open when you're in that space. It's just, I'm here to share with you that time has gone on. These guys have backed up everything that they said. The community's growing. The software and the technology is doing great. There's bigger things to come. That's fair. Everything I just said, that's right on it. Ben Askren wouldn't disagree with that.
One last thing on them. Who is behind this? Or are they anonymous?
No one knows. They're anonymous.
No one knows.
In all fairness, that's like one of the allures to most coins. The gentleman that started Ethereum, who was an Ukrainian gentleman, comes out there. Vitaly is his name, and he wants everybody to know it's him. But even Bitcoin, like Satoshi, we don't really know who Satoshi is. I have my own belief on who started Bitcoin. I don't even think it's somebody from Japan. Many people have said Elon Musk. I also don't think that's true. But in all fairness, most coins do stay anonymous. They never want to get doxxed.
Wow. What a crazy world. Can I hit you with a couple other quick hitters before we let you go?
I would love it.
Okay.
I would love. By
How
the
nice
way,
is
can we
this?
go back to this Francis and Ngannou? I mean, I really do think that there's something there. Errol, that's a fun one-night thing, but what is the long-term play?
No.
When you say that the money on Francis is going to come back into the UFC, don't you see the other side of it? I mean, if he goes and gets clean, do you think that Francis Ngannou has even a chance against Tyson Fury in a boxing match? Is that what you're saying?
He has to get the next deal before he agrees to that deal. And whether that deal is with the UFC, whether it's with Bellator or anyone else, he has to make sure that his long-term, this is a one-off, right? It's a one-night only, Fury versus Ngannou, everyone wins, it's a beautiful thing. But that's not a career thing. Now, let's be honest, getting a little older, man has been through a lot. I mean, it's crazy what he got paid for his last fight, $650,000, Chael. How could you defend such a thing? Dillian White got paid $7.2 million. He was the B-side. He wasn't even the champion. This is the champion getting $650,000. I mean, it's dare I say criminal that he's getting paid this much. So he has to get that payday. Everyone should be in support of it. But before agreeing to that fight, before inking that deal, he needs to get the next deal because you don't want to get knocked out. You don't want to get embarrassed. And then someone walks away and is like, hey, man, you're damaged goods, right? So he's got some time. That's the beauty of all of this, but it's going to be a fascinating story to see play out. By the way, Diaz a fascinating story to see play out. You see that leak thing yesterday? Everyone's talking about that.
Yes.
There's truth to that.
Yes, I saw it. I personally believe it. I mean, was it some conspiracy?
No.
Was this some conspiracy here where somebody came in and manufactured that? I don't think so. No, I will share with you. And you know this, but for the audience, the way it works in the war room, those don't just get posted to fights that are signed, that paperwork and bout agreements are signed. It's what you want. But we did get confirmation there. I mean, through social media, Adesanya and Jaron Cannonier backed that up. Even Brian Barberena versus Robbie Lawler, which, by the way, is an awesome fight. I didn't really see that one coming. But these guys have confirmed that these things are done. I don't hate the idea of Diaz versus Chimaev. Diaz doesn't want to do anything that isn't 25 minutes, and I was the opposite. I was fine there. The less time, the better. If they'd have let me have one round instead of 3, I would have gone for it. So Diaz just kind of marches to a different drum, but I don't think anything hurts him. I mean, in all fairness, I've never been to weigh-ins where a crowd is more energized than when Nate Diaz comes out, or even his very last fight in Phoenix. I happened to be there live. There was 2 world title fights that night. Nobody got the reception as when they pan the camera and Nate Diaz comes walking out of his locker room, man. I mean, he is a very special attraction. And I do think that you're right. There's not very many things that can hurt him. Whether he wins or loses, the crowd's coming with him, whatever he goes to do.
What do you do with Jon Jones?
Put him with Stipe, don't you? I mean, I feel like
I don't know if Stipe's taking the fight.
Say that again?
I don't know if Stipe's taking the fight.
Really?
Stipe.
That's surprising. Do you have some inside scoop that just broke?
Well, I don't know if it just broke, but Stipe is a full-time firefighter. He's not really chomping at the bit. Is it chomping at the bit? Yeah, chomping at the bit. Is that the word?
Right.
Yeah, all right. You don't see him out there campaigning. I think if there's a belt on the line, he could be convinced. But honestly, I'm not putting, that in the bank. I'm not saying it's a done deal. I don't know what happens with Jon. And I think that they need to book Jon sooner rather than later. Figure something out, because the more you wait, the more chances there are that he doesn't come and fight. And I think he only has a finite, the guy's been fighting for a very long time, and, he's not going to be around forever. So I don't think that's a done deal by any stretch. I think they would like for it to be a done deal. I even reported last week they wanted it to be at Madison Square Garden, July 30th. But then Jon even came out himself and was like, September now, they're saying. I don't know about that one.
I've seen all of these things. Everything that you said, I've seen. I have a pen pal who's Stipe's old lady. She's very great at getting back to me. Now, this is a period of time ago. I'm probably even going back 4 to 6 months, but she did share something with me. Stipe always thought he didn't know about Jon Jones. He thought he was going to be crossing paths with Francis in the trilogy fight. Stipe, as you recall, shocked us all when he weighed in for the Francis fight at 233 pounds. We all go, my God, that's too small. Most light heavyweights on fight night weigh very close to that. It's too small. Stipe came to the same conclusion. He said, I've got to be more man. I just got to be a bigger human being when I fight Francis. I want to put on 20 pounds. I spoke to his wife, and he had put on those 20 pounds. He was in the 250s. And I only bring that to you because to change your physiology, the level of commitment and work that you have to do, you think losing weight is hard, gaining weight just as hard in the opposite direction. I thought Stipe was ready to fight. You're sharing something with me. It's very obvious one of those two doesn't want to fight. I had never considered it was on Stipe's side. You could be right about that. That would disappoint me. Because I don't know. I'm very into this Jon Jones experiment. The whole take some time off, get up to 240, come into a different weight class. But if you take Stipe out of the equation and you remove Francis from the equation, I don't know a lot of people that are very compelling for Jon to mix it up with.
I agree. And especially they booked all these fights. You've got Aspinall Blades, you've got Tuivasa and Gunn. There's not a sure thing out there, so I'm really curious. I'm also curious to see what they do, if anything, with Henry Cejudo. Has anyone ever, come on, we talked about this in the Ariel and the Bad Guy days because it's been going on for that long. The biggest botch job of all time in terms of retirements, right? He literally retired for 45 minutes, went to the back, in your words, turned the gun on them and said, well, if you pay me more, I'll come back. No one has ever done it worse than Henry, right? Now he's downright begging to get back in there, and Dana's giving him the old stiff arm. He's saying, no, are you retired? Are you not retired? What do you do with this guy? What do you think they will do with him?
Getting a clear answer from Henry has been tough. Henry's gotten so used to the character of working and manipulating the audience that sometimes even when I'm alone with him and I ask him something real straight, it's kind of hard, Errol. I get a little bit of yes, I get a little bit of no, I get a little bit of on the fence. I don't believe that Henry's going to step in the ring unless it's for a title fight. I know at one point he wanted Volkanovski. I don't think that there's any likelihood to that, which brings you back to Sterling. I think that's a good matchup. I think that TJ Dillashaw and his injury and when's TJ coming back, I think there's a lot of things that right now is really good. Henry's got to go through USADA, which to my understanding is 4 months. He's about 14 days into that. So he's got a little bit of a period of time, but I don't know that he just wants to be back. In all fairness to Dana going, hey, listen, are you serious or aren't you? The first step was getting to the USADA pool. That means something. That shows some sincerity. But the next thing is, are you willing to have a contenders fight? Are you willing to have a little bit of space between what you want and what we need to do to get you there? And I've never gotten a clear answer from Henry on that. I really don't know. I also know as being champion, 246, the level of participation that he got on the back end with the pay-per-view numbers is something that a guy, is likely expecting, which is just per the contract, not there anymore now that you don't have the time. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of things that stop me from getting overly excited about the return of Henry, not to mention what a coach. What, he's got 3 world champions or 2 world champions. He's really on a good run right now. It looks like perhaps if he wants, the next chapter of his storied career is already began.
What do you do with your boy Colby?
You got to check on him. You got to find out, are you hurt? Can you get licensed? Can you pass this? How much time do you need? I loved the idea of the big ABC reward, the main event, 25 minutes, Colby versus what was going to be Chimaev, right? The winner of Chimaev and Burns turned out to be Chimaev. I love that match, but I think that Colby is in a very unique spot. He is very clearly the number 1 ranked guy in the world. He's extremely clearly, more than any other division, the number 1 contender, but he can't get a fight. He can't get a title fight. That's a really hard spot for anybody to be in. Whether you change divisions, you try to flip the audience's psyche into getting a trilogy fight when the first 2 went against you, or you wait out Kamaru Usman. It's a really hard spot. I imagine that Colby wakes up every day, works his ass off, and he probably goes to bed a little bit frustrated.
Why not go to 85 then?
I love it. I love that idea. I love the matches he would have up there. I think as number one contender, he should qualify right for a title fight, considering Adesanya's already dealt with essentially everybody. But I don't know. I mean, Colby couldn't make 185. If they went and did that weigh-in, he'd come in about 183, 184. He's not even going to make the limit, right? I mean, he's a perfect 170-pounder. So it's a tough spot. I know Dana got asked about it and kind of dismissed it quickly. That was a phenomenon for a little bit there. There was talk of Adesanya and Covington. Both guys weighed in on it. The media got behind it. Dana kind of stopped it. So I don't know that that's overly realistic, but I like that idea, partner. Anytime, that's always my first suggestion for marketing. Anytime you need a fresh coat of paint, change weight classes.
I also like when you call me partner. It makes me very nostalgic.
Mutual.
Makes me feel good.
Mutual.
Have you made your picks yet for Saturday?
No, Ariel, in my entire time as a fan in the sport, which dates back to my junior year of high school of 1993, wow. I have never been more torn on a fight. I always have a strong opinion, even if I'm wrong. I'm aware I get them wrong all the time, but I feel it inside. I feel that I know. Gaethje versus Oliver, my goodness. Not to mention, this is a stand-up fight. If I was to ask you who's going to win between Gaethje versus Oliveira, I could back it up and say, who do you think wins a Muay Thai fight? Meaning stand up with elbows and knees, punches and kicks. That's all you can do. Because that's all they're going to have. I'm not sold on the idea that Oliveira, as good of his takedowns are better than Michael Chandler's, who couldn't take Gaethje down. I've never seen Gaethje take somebody down. I think you've got a stand-up battle. I think if you're handicapping and you're making picks, that's all you have to ask yourself. Who would win a stand-up Muay Thai fight between these two?
I think Gaethje.
It would seem. Right. I mean, it would seem just because he's known to bludgeon, but Oliveira is very diverse. I mean, he'll hit you with a flying knee. He'll hit you with a round kick. He's good with the elbows. He will surprise you at times. And Gaethje, like anybody, you can wear on him. I mean, if you go back to the stand-up battles, maybe it was with Alvarez or maybe even with Poirier, eventually there is a way to wear Justin down. But I'm with you. When I do think of just a stand-up fight between those two, I tend to lean towards Gaethje. Not to mention, Justin's all pissed off all of a sudden. Like, there's something that's really energized and motivated him. I've never seen him look as good as he did against Chandler. I think that was Gaethje's single best performance. And if he brings that with him, man, he could be the world champion by this time next week.
So you're leaning Gaethje.
I think I am. I have to leave it at that. Errol, I've truly never been in a position. I could see both of these guys winning. I think, puncher's chance. We love to throw that term out. It's a very lazy approach. But a puncher's chance, I don't know that Oliveira with his best shot can put Gaethje down. I do know that Gaethje with his best shot could put Oliveira down. I think I lean towards Gaethje.
What about Rose,
4 and
Carla?
5 rounds, I mean, that's very relevant too.
Yeah.
Oliveira is in the 5-round club, and he's passed that with very flying colors. He could come from behind. That's realistic.
And what about Rose, Carla?
I love it. Errol, there has never been a title fight of 2022, but quite possibly in history, as under-promoted, as underexposed as this one. And I'm not. Go ahead.
You're backing my point from 30 minutes ago. Under-promoted. Yes. No. Under-promoted. They're mailing it in, Chael. They're mailing it in. Yes, you agree with me.
But Errol, the question becomes why? Why are they doing that?
No, I'm talking about in general, not just with this fight. I'm talking about in general.
Yes, but then you have all the conspiracies that come out of why would they do that? Well, a lot of people don't understand that this is a rematch. They don't understand there was a rematch that was won by Carla. Oh, and by the way, it was not a competitive first match. It was Carla by a lot. And Carla on top of a poster is not the name power that Rose is, at least of right now. I mean, I don't know why this one's going under the radar. I'm a huge fight fan. I found out 8 days ago that it was even happening right now. I mean, in all fairness, I've never seen a title fight as under-glamorized as this one. And I do have a fair question when I say, why?
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'll tell you what, if Eddie Hearn was promoting it, you wouldn't be asking that question. Because if I was promoting it, Chael, I would waltz up there to the dais and say, 2014. In many people's eyes, that's 8 years ago. In my eyes, and in the eyes of these two women, a lifetime ago. Because in 2014, Rose Namajunas was a neophyte in this business. She was a fresh face. Heck, her hair was there. She had long hair. She didn't know what the UFC was all about. She never fought on a big stage before, and she just got off a reality show where she was stuck in a house for 6 weeks, and she had to fight the #1 best fighter on the planet at 115. And what happened? She crumbled under that pressure. And what did she do since then? She built herself up to be maybe the greatest 115-pound champion of all time. Now, is getting a chance to right that wrong against Carla Esparza, who has had to scratch and claw her way. That's how you promote a fight, Chael. That's how you promote. You ain't going to hear any of that. You know what you're going to hear? Who's got the first question? Who's got the first question?
Sure. Hey, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you two things. First off, since they set that octagon up in 1993, there is only one position and one technique that holds true today that held true then, which is if you take somebody down against their will and you keep them there, you're probably going to win the fight. That's one thing that Carla does better than anybody in that division. And secondly, if Eddie Hearn was promoting this fight, I wouldn't know what channel it was on.
That was a good. That was a good one. Last one, Chandler against Ferguson. Feels like everyone's picking Chandler.
Yes.
Feels like the end of the road, right?
I don't love the match for a number of reasons. I don't know where either guy goes from here. I don't know why we're doing this fight. I don't know what the point of it is. It's two guys that we know. It's two top names, all these wonderful. It's going to be a great walkout. It's going to be something special. I get that side of it. I don't know why this match is happening. And I'd like to. I'm not trying to hate on it. I would like to have that answer for my audience. I don't know. I don't know why these two are fighting. I guess because they weigh the same.
Right. This has been so great. By the way, I didn't get a chance to publicly thank you. Thank you so much for that coffee that you sent. I mean, I see it right there. Just reminded me. It is so good. It's really one of the all-time best cups of coffee that I've ever had. Mean Street Coffee, never lost a round. It just keeps you on your toes, keeps you energized, doesn't give you the hard crash. Tastes very earthy taste, if I may say so myself. Very nice in a cappuccino form and in just like, just a tall black. It's just very nice.
Thank you, buddy. That was beautiful. You're very welcome. I missed you. Enjoy a great show.
All right. That's it. You're done with me. Bye, Chael. Great to talk to you as always. Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. He can't slam the computer anymore, but he can pretty much tell you when he's done with you. And by the way, if you're wondering if he sent me the coffee, he absolutely did not send me the coffee. I've never had the coffee before, but I do love a good bag of coffee. And let's be honest, Matt Brown sent me the coffee when I gave a shout out to the coffee.